Hello, my creeplings! We're back. We are almost completely done with the Ash Williams saga. Got this and one other. And then, yep. Kind of makes me a little sad because I really love playing in this world. I love all the characters involved. I love the creatives involved. But all good things, must come to an end. But we're not quite there yet. We are in season 2 of Ash vs. Evil Dead, and this is probably the most info-packed and action-packed season of them all. This one really pushed the boundaries in a couple of ways. Visually, we have some returning favorites in new roles, and we have some new faces that people would recognize. So, let's get started with it. I will warn you, I am going to be prone to be going off on some tangents with this particular season because of the fact that there are certain things that I just feel like I want to elaborate on because of my personal experiences, and you'll know when I'm about ready to start a ramble. Just be warned, there's going to probably be a little bit more tangenting and rambling in this one than there has been in a lot of this. So, also, my throat has been very dry today. I have a water off screen. You will see me probably grab the bottle and drink out of it. I'm sorry if that's rude, but I need my hydration. So we open up in Jacksonville. Or no, we don't. We open up with Ruby. I'm going to have to keep my notes because there's a lot going on, and I really don't want to miss any high points. Ruby is in danger. Her spawn, her children from the last season, are running amok. She cannot control them. They're drawn to the book, so she hides the book in a body in the morgue. This comes into play here in a minute. Now we go to Jacksonville, where Ash and company are living it up. Well, Ash is living it up. Kelly and Pablo are just working in the bar where Ash is living it up at. But the party quickly turns sour because Ash is attacked by 2 Deadites with a message from Ruby in the form of a very condescending rhyme from his past. I do not have the rhyme memorized. I always screw it up, but just note that the ashy slashy is definitely enough to ring a bell in his head. So he realizes exactly what it is and where Ruby is because of it. Ruby is in his hometown of Elk Grove, Michigan. They drive from Jacksonville to Elk Grove. Now, as they get closer, things start to happen. Kelly starts checking the news once they cross the Michigan border, and you find out there are sinkholes opening all over the county, and crime has doubled, so the evil is spreading. We also find out that Pablo's kind of seeing things, and he just seems like he's having visions. He hasn't seemed to have shaken the book possessing him in the last season. And this becomes a big plot point this season. When Ash and company roll into town, we meet our first big new character, Ash's father, Brock Williams. We find out where Ash gets a lot of his bad habits and personality traits from. Brock is one of those classic toxic masculine small town dude types. Ash and Brock do not get along because Brock thinks that Ash should have stuck around 30 years ago and faced the you killed your friends issues instead of running away. Brock really had no idea what was going on. We do get some insights into how Ash grew up a little bit this season. One of them is we know that Ash's mother walked out on them. I also think Cheryl might have been the favorite child. And I don't think Brock has really truly faced what he's lost 30 years ago. Because his house is in disrepair, and I know, guys, like, this is where I talk about me going off on tangents and things because of personal thoughts. I grew up in a small town in this area. I'm from Northwest Ohio. They're from Michigan. I'm not quite sure where Elk Grove is supposed to be, but it feels very similar to the small town I grew up in. And guys of Brock's generation, especially those toxic masculine types, are proud of their house being together, their car being together, their lawn being fucking immaculate. And in small towns like that, if you don't keep up with your peer group, oh, people fucking talk. So, it seems like maybe Brock didn't quite, like, I don't know. I think he's having issues, and I think that the house being in disrepair is part of it. Again, this is just me spitballing and going off on a tangent. Done with that. Now Brock is played by Lee Majors, the $6 Million Man himself, the Fall Guy, and I got, like, everybody my age and older definitely knows who Lee Majors is. And he does this role very, very well. Now, they go searching around town. We find that Pablo has a Cheryl moment. And when I say that, Pablo goes to draw a picture of Ruby for them to show around. Have you seen this girl type thing? But his hand ends up drawing the Necronomicon like Cheryl's did in the first movie. So nice little throwback to that. Pablo and Kelly go one way, Ash goes the other. Ash walks into the local bar, and we meet one of Ash's ex-girlfriends. His first, Linda Bates. Now Linda Bates Emery, married to the local sheriff, who was a victim of Ash's bullying growing up. So, again, going back on small town thing, you see this a lot in small towns and small rural counties, at least in my area and in my experience. A lot of these, you either have two types of people that really stand out in your local law enforcement. You've got the bullies themselves who want to keep bullying people, end up in law enforcement, or you've got who formerly were the bullied, saw that they could make a power move, and end up becoming law enforcement, and they use that to put their bullies in their place. You see a lot of that. I'm not saying every cop or sheriff or even security guard in a small town, small county is like that, but you see your fair share of them. And it's very, very common. Now, I'm wondering how these guys nailed that feeling so well, because these guys all grew up outside of Detroit in the suburbs. They did not grow up in rural farm towns. And I'm relatively sure a good chunk of the writers were, I don't want to say that they were Kiwis, because there was a handful of writers in the States too, but I'm venturing to guess that not a lot of them grew up like that. So I'm wondering how they managed to nail that shit on the head so well, because Elk Grove reminded me so much of where I grew up that it was almost scary. Okay. Back onto the story. So Pablo has a vision of like a dark Ruby repossessing him with the book. Now, it does give them a clue as to where Ruby is hanging out, though. She's at the local abandoned crematorium. Just as they figure this out, demons attack, the spawn, the hell spawn, the demon spawn, attack our heroes. We do find out that they move via shadow. So if you watch Shadows, you can sometimes see them, I think. Now, Ash finds Ruby at the crematorium, and she basically says, I need your help. My children have run amok. And, I can't do this without you. Which is, shows you where Ruby is and how bad this situation is. So they go back to the Williams home. She reveals that she hid the book in a corpse at the morgue. So Ash and Kelly head to the hospital morgue to go find the book. Kelly and Pablo stay behind at the Williams home because Pablo, who hasn't shared these how he's been feeling and everything, he wants answers from Ruby. While this is happening, Brock is getting ready to entertain a lady friend who is a former flame of ashes, Lillian Pendergast. Again, it goes to show you, these two are in competition with each other. Brock's almost like, in a way, your classic narcissistic parent, in some ways, that being one of them, because it sounds like this isn't the first time Brock has taken advantage of the situation and ended up with one of Ash's girlfriends. Just the way some lines were delivered and things like that. We have a little bit of a Cheryl flashback as Ash looks at her bedroom door. So we're getting some heavy foreshadowing of Cheryl right now. We get to see Ash's room, which is this lovely time capsule of a late high school, early college male from the late 70s, early 80s, and my God, I am here for every second of that and every scrap of nostalgia in there. On a side note about this, like I said, late 70s, early 80s, the soundtrack in all of these seasons is also very much stuck in that time frame. Like, Ash never got out of that time frame. If The Evil Dead took place in 1981, the year it was filmed, or whatever year that was, Ash kind of like stunted. So his playlists are all what I call dad rock, or the truck commercial music, Bob Seger and the song Space Truckin', things like that. And it very much reflects the last time he was a real whole person and not just this PTSD mess. So, we have Ash and Kelly. Ash leaves Kelly out in the hallway to look out. Ash goes in and starts tearing up bodies looking for this book. This has got to be one of the grossest fight scenes I have ever seen, because this book ends up causing some serious havoc with these bodies. Ash ends up getting attacked by a possessed colon and his head gets shoved up a cadaver's ass. It's just, I can't say it any more succinctly than that. There's no way you can sugarcoat that shit. And I do mean shit. Poor me. But that scene was, in effects, just wonderful. Kelly Sheriff Emery runs into Kelly while she's beating up a pop machine, because it took her money and didn't give her stuff. They end up having a tiff, and since Sheriff Emery's got a glass jaw, when Kelly punches him, she knocks him out. And just as Ash comes out and he sees it, he's like, what happened here? And well, she's like, well, I'm going to get assaulting a police officer as a charge. I was like, no, you won't. He takes Kelly's open soda, because after, of course, she knocked him out, the soda came out of the machine, the pop, and pours it all over Emery's pants, make it look like he pissed himself. Because apparently that was a habit when they would beat him up in high school. He'd piss his pants, and rather than go and tell what happened and admit he pissed his pants, he just kept his mouth quiet. Ash can be very astute and very psychologically wise when time comes. Now, granted, the fact that he was the bully isn't kind of cool, but excuse me. The fact that he's a bully wasn't cool, but I mean, it worked out in his favor right now. Now, while this is happening, Pablo and Ruby are in Ash's room, and they figure out what's going on with Pablo. Pablo and is starting to become one with the book. The book is starting to physically manifest itself on his skin in the form of, like, the writing, the cuneiform. We also find out via Ash at the morgue that Lillian Pendergast died of pneumonia like 3 days prior. The Lillian Pendergast that's going to get it on with Brock Williams is a Deadite. So, of course, Deadite Lillian attacks Pablo and Ruby kills him. Kills her in Ash's room, which pisses him off because he's like, don't touch my stuff! And they end up wrecking his shit. Ruby also figures out that the Spawn intend to release Ball. Now, Ball is her, I think they refer to him as her husband. And, Ball's her partner, the children's father, and, this is not good. This is not good. Even Ruby's scared of him. And we close the episode, this particular episode, with the Delta being stolen by a bunch of teenagers for a joyride with the book in the car in the back seat. So, yep. We got hell breaking loose. Ash, of course, mourns the loss of the car like you would mourn the loss of a loved one. I think he was channeling Sam there, if Sam ever had to actually call it a day with the Delta. Now, the kids that are joyriding, one of them is Sheriff Emery's daughter, Lacey. And then her boyfriend, and then they've got a couple other friends. They've got a couple that are friends with them there, and a third wheel, basically. The book, they get tired of the couple making out and basically trying to have sex in the backseat of the car. They all leave and go hang out on the bleachers at the school, while these two are in the backseat of the Delta. Now, that dumb bitch picks up the book and starts reading it. So we all know what happens there. She gets possessed. The car gets possessed. So we're having a Stephen King Christine moment here. Almost. Well, the possessed Deadite, bites her boyfriend's dick off, of course. Death by sex is always this, but it doesn't actually kill him. The car kills him later. So while this is all happening, Ash comes up with an idea to entice the kids back. Back in high school, Ash had this friend, Mr. Chet Kaminsky. Now, I'm just gonna get it over with. Chet's played by Ted Raimi. So, of course, he's one of my favorite characters. For many, many reasons. Other than the fact... I'm sure I would have liked him if someone else had played him, but I love him because Ted played him. But Chet and Ash used to throw these ragers with their signature drink. The drink is called the Pink Fuck. Now, if you freeze frame, you can actually get the recipe for the Pink Fuck. I'm going to mangle Chet's quote, because they quote Chet telling you what it is. It is a proprietary blend of spirits and liqueurs garnished with orange and nutmeg. Oh, and it's got a shit ton of ketamine in it. Yes, vitamin K, ketamine, the horse tranquilizer itself. Apparently this drink has its basis in real life. In the 70s, veterinary students apparently figured out you can get a nice euphoric high from ketamine, and started mixing it into cocktails. So it does have its basis in reality. This wasn't just a thing, you know. I have tried that recipe for the Pink Fuck minus the ketamine. I'm not stupid. Because it's illegal to do that here in this state. So we call it the Pink Passionate Hug, or the PPH. It is a very sweet drink. And enough of them, yeah, you're on your butt. But this is what teenagers in these small towns do. You have very little opportunity to do anything. You're either a good kid and do nothing, or you drink, you get high, or you fuck. There's a reason why there's a high school teen pregnancy rate in towns like this, because you're bored as fuck. And you're just looking to fill the time. So, yes, we were introduced to Chet Kaminsky, and Chet is a guy that I easily could see myself knowing had I stayed home. Had I stayed in my hometown, I know there are guys like Chet in my hometown area. They're washed up, they peaked in high school, a lot of them went into the military right after school, and, you know, they develop they're functioning alcoholics. And that sounds exactly like what Chet did. Graduated high school, got into the military, and just crawled into a bottle and didn't get out. But there's a reason why Chet crawled into a bottle, and it's not the military. By the end of this, you feel for the poor man. You feel so hard for him. But yeah, he's like one of the only people who, like, he's kind of like just believes that Ash didn't do it. Like, I think he might be the only person. And maybe Linda, Ash's first Linda Emery. Because she seems to be happy to see that he's back in town. Chet's over the fucking moon. So they decide that they're going to throw a rager with the legendary pink fuck and try to get all the high school kids in, so maybe these kids that stole the Delta will show up with the Delta and they can get everything back. It's not a bad plan. It's not a good plan either. So the possessed car takes Lacey on a joyride after killing, and it kills all of her friends with her in the car. The possessed girlfriend, I'm just going to refer to her as probably the possessed skank, the possessed slut, because that's how they portray her. She's not in the car. She's disappeared into the night. So we're cutting back and forth between the car killing people and what's going on at the Rager. And then Brock shows up at the Rager, and Ash's like, you've got to go. I don't need no stupid old man getting rid of all the popular kids. I need you gone. And Brock's like, me and my two buddies here have been coming to this bar every week for 50 years or however long. And, they end up taunting each other and challenging each other to a mechanical bull riding contest. Now, this possessed skank has shown up in her unpossessed form, and when Brock shows Ash up on the mechanical bull, she's all, flirtatious and everything. Of course, Brock, being a womanizer, is going to take her back to the bathroom and get what he wants. While this is happening, Ruby and Kelly have wandered off. Ruby's got a plan B. And that is, I'm going to go kill my spawn one by one if I have to. And Kelly agrees, she's like, that's a good plan. Let's go fucking do this. I don't know how Kelly can function with as much as she was drinking that night, but I guess living with Ash, you build a high tolerance. So the slutty deadite, again, tries to, bite Brock. Yeah. Tries to kill Brock in the bathroom. But Ash manages to save him. Because Pablo caught the white eyes and he's like, dude, she's a deadite. So Brock realizes Ash wasn't lying all those years ago, was not making shit up. And at the same time, Ash walks out of the bathroom with this girl's, I think her name was Amber, her head in his hand, Perseus with the Medusa, holding it by the hair, which freaks all the kids out. They start screaming, Ashy Slashy's coming for us, and everyone just scatters like cockroaches when you turn the light on. But so everyone's outside, the kids are all gone. I don't know why Brock manages to stop in the middle of the street, but he and Ash are having a little bit of a heart-to-heart when the Delta runs Brock over and kills him. Sayonara, Brock. They figure out that the Delta is possessed, and it kidnaps Pablo. So now the car has got two victims, Lacey and Pablo, and it rushes off into the night. Chet is leaving the bar to go to his lovely, I think it's a 1970 Gremlin. This thing is a piece of shit. It is dirty. Someone wrote on the dirty back window, for sale, F-O-U-R, like for. Ash is like, Chet, let me borrow your wheels. And Chet's like, sure, dude, as long as we go to Mammary Lane, the strip club. In which a hilarious car chase ensues. With Ash driving, a very drunk and oblivious Chet in the passenger seat. They manage to come up on the Delta. There's it's really fucking hilarious. Chet is gold. Just that drunk obliviousness. Oh, I want to smush his face. But just as they're getting to, the height of the chase, Chet freaks out, grabs the emergency brake, which you don't see anymore on cars. Stops the thing. He's like, dude! So, Ash pretty much drops the long and the short of it on Chet. And Chet's like, well, fuck yeah, let's go fight us some demons. And Ash is like, no, I've got to do this alone. They have a cute little exchange. And they both figure out that the car probably was heading towards the local Smash 'em Up demo derby arena, pit, whatever you want to call it. Chet has a it's played for laughs, but it's actually kind of interesting. A very astute moment of clarity, and just the delivery on that from drunk Chet to clear Chet. If I didn't love Ted Raimi as much as I did, I would have by then. The man's just a gem of an actor. Y'all save the comments, or the calling out for the comments. I know. I can't help it. So, we go back. In between all of this, we have Kelly and Ruby arming up, and Kelly kind of confronts Ruby about Ball, because she's like, every time you talk about him, you trail off, or you just kind of stop, which makes me not trust you. And this is where Ruby explains how Ball works. He uses fear, seduction, and paranoia, and he turns people against each other. He will lock them in a cage, and he will watch them pick each other off like animals, and then like a scavenger, he'll go in for the remaining pieces. That's a perfect explanation of what happens coming up. So, while Pablo and Lacey are getting kidnapped, we find out that the book can now talk to Pablo, and it taunts him. So the car crashes, and Pablo ends up in a vision where he's dying, and Ash puts him into the trunk. So, but it was just a vision. Pablo's still okay. So, Chet drops Ash off at the Smash 'em Up Derby, and Chet disappears into the night to be seen later. Kelly and Ruby go spawn hunting while Ash is confronting the Delta. It keeps intercutting. Both are successful. Ash defeats the Delta. He doesn't destroy it, but he defeats it, and they get rid of all the spawn. Lacey did escape, so she's safe. Traumatized, but safe. The book convinces Pablo that their problems will be over if they just cast the book into the abyss. And the trunk pops open on the Delta, and you see basically the fiery pit of hell. They cast the book in. What they don't realize is something was released when the book went in. So we cut to a local deputy, Margie, comes into the aftermath of the Elks Lodge bar. No one cleaned up after the party. Apparently, Chet being the bartender didn't mean that he was responsible for properly closing down. We have Amber, Deadite Slut's body still in the bathroom. So Margie goes to call it in. But Margie is manipulated and killed by, who we find out is Ball. Now, we do also find out that Ball can steal your skin and wear you. As a disguise. Ball is played to perfection by Xena actor Joel Tobeck. Joel's part of the Renaissance family, as I like to refer to them. He played at least 2 characters on Xena and Hercules. I know one was one of Ares' henchmen, Strife, and the other one was an Ares henchman, but I just cannot remember if he was Deimos or Phobos. He was Phobos or Deimos. I can't remember which one he was, I believe. I do know Strife, because he was mostly Strife. And then I think he did a few other, like, little cameo where you're like, oh, look, it's Strife. But it's not Strife type things. So he's part of the family, and they all work so well together. He plays Ball to perfection here. So, because of the discovery of the body, Ash is arrested for the murder of, I believe, again, I think her name is Amber, but don't quote me on that. Where we find out what Chet did after he dropped off Ash. He's in jail for DUI, and solicitation. Poor guy just has to get prostitutes, and I feel so bad for him at, like, it is, what, late 50s? If he's the same age as Ash or similar, he would have been in his late 50s at this point in time. I don't think Ted was quite that old, because I think he's in his mid-50s now. Anyway, doing math. I'm sure he didn't think his, if you'd asked him back when he and Ash were in the height of their partying days, he wouldn't be, I'll be almost 60 and soliciting prostitutes because I'm so lonely. Again, it's one of those, I feel for you, dude. I really feel for you. Just like I feel for Ash having to live with all that PTSD and not being able to have a normal life because of that shit. So, we get to a point where Ball uses his powers to trap them in the jail/sheriff's station. We have Ash, Pablo, Ruby, Kelly, Lacey, Linda, Sheriff Emery, Chet, Joni the prostitute, Margie, another female deputy, the town drunk, and maybe 1 or 2 others are all trapped. Ruby gets everybody into one room so that she can keep an eye on everybody. She knows how this works. But Ruby's like, we need the Kandarian dagger. That is one of the only ways we can incapacitate him. So she takes the other deputy, or the other deputy might already been down there. But anyway, they go into the evidence locker because apparently the Kandarian dagger had gotten from Kelly and Ruby from killing the Spawn to Ash's bag. Little continuity error there. Sorry, it's getting a little late. So they're all playing this game of, well, maybe he's in you, maybe you're Ball, and we find out that Ball is actually down there with Ruby, and they have a fight because Ball was in the skin of the other female deputy. We find out that Pablo is manifesting things on him. It starts looking like a funky rash and boils. But it's coming from the outside, from the inside out. Ball and Ruby have their fight in the evidence locker. We find out that Ruby has lost her immortality. bringing her children forth into the world cost her immortality. So she's mortal now. She can be killed. We have a reanimated body, possessed and reanimated, attacks them, ends up killing the prostitute. We get a funny line from Chet. But they manage to all escape. The gang heads back. So Linda, Lacey, the Ghost Beaters, and Ruby end up back at the Williams house again to regroup and replan. They figure out that it's the book itself that's manifesting on Pablo. You start to see the cuneiform style writing manifesting on his chest and the rest of his body. So Ruby's like, we can use this to find the spell to banish Baal. We do also figure out that the amulet that he's still wearing from his El Brujo uncle is slowing it down, trying to protect him, and it ends up becoming an issue, a small issue later. We have a posse of citizens led by Sheriff Emery converging on the Williams house, wanting justice for all the wrongdoing. Kelly goes into overdrive, and she is fucking awesome in this scene. That's all. Premium Kelly here. They're upstairs because Ruby takes Pablo to Ash's room to have a safer place to concentrate to find this spell. Ash hears a commotion in Cheryl's room and opens the door, and it's Chet. Came to warn you, man. There's a big, group of people. But the funny thing about this whole situation is Chet's lovingly holding Cheryl's photograph, her portrait, and her clothes are laid out on her bed. Like a silent memorial. And they haven't been there forever. They look clean. Like if Brock had laid them out and they sat there for 30 years, they'd be as dusty as the blanket on the bed. No, these were laid out recently. We find out what was going on with Chet and Cheryl here by the end of this particular episode. We get the return of Ellen Sandweiss as Cheryl. The Deadites use the clothes to manifest a now properly aged Cheryl. Comes out of the room, and she's like, Ash? What's going on? Where's Dad? And he's like, you don't remember? You died 30 years ago. And she's like, I don't remember. She sees Chet. She's like, oh, you're all grown up. Like, there's something, odd about this whole thing. It also goes to show you how dense Ash really is, to a point. But again, this Cheryl turns Deadite, and there's a cat and mouse game throughout the house of hide and seek. Ash specifically tells Chet to stay up here. Do not go downstairs while I go take care of my sister. Chet doesn't listen, goes downstairs to find a beer, and ends up between Cheryl and Ash. During the initial fight upstairs, we did find out that Cheryl and Chet had a secret romance. It was really kind of unnerving to watch Deadite Cheryl sucking on Chet's neck and taking his belt off, and him saying, this doesn't feel half as good as it used to. So yeah, they had a relationship, and Ash didn't know. They didn't tell Ash. And 30 years ago, Chet lost a woman that he cared about and couldn't even publicly mourn her in a proper way. Yeah, that's probably why he's such a functioning alcoholic. He crawled into the bottom of a bottle looking for the chance to mourn and never got it. This is where I say, even if Ted Raimi hadn't played him, say they got, they could have gotten Robert Tappert to come out of, the producer's chair and play. They could have gotten Sam to play that, because Sam has done acting on the side. And I would have been very sympathetic to the character. Maybe not quite as much as I am now. But I feel for Chet, because again, I know guys like Chet. They lost their high school girlfriend either because she moved away, or, you know, she just dropped him for a friend or whatnot, and they just never really recover. And there's nothing you can do in small towns like that. I know that feeling. I've watched people go through that feeling. It's sad to watch them spiral out like that. Which is why it just, the next bit here. So Chet's stuck between Cheryl. Cheryl's using Chet as a human shield between Cheryl and Ash. And she's like, you'll have to go through him to get to me. And he's like, you know I won't do that. And she goes, fine. I'll go through him. Literally punches his heart right out of his chest from behind. Chet literally died of a broken heart. Just 30 years too late. I felt like they ripped my heart out and handed it to me. That's how much I sympathize with that character. Like I said, I think it's a little bit stronger because I'm so attached to Ted, specifically as an actor. But, like, I really think if Sam would have played the part, or, hell, if they would have gotten Michael Hurst to play the part, or any other actor of that kind of age range, and the Renaissance Pictures family, I really do, I mean, here I am getting a little upset. I cried when that happened the first time. A little bit. And, wow. If anybody else, like I had listed, had taken that part, I still think I would have been upset. I would still be mourning that character's death. Because that's hard, man. And, I mean, Ash, not even knowing the significance behind that, but seeing his best friend be killed by the evil he's been fighting for 30 years in the personification of his sister? After just losing his dad? I mean, I'm honestly... Yeah. If I were Ash, I'd definitely would have cracked up before this, but that would have probably sent me over the edge. But instead, Ash uses the moment to prove a point. He forces Cheryl outside in front of the crowd. Of course, she goes back to looking like sweet Cheryl, which automatically shocks the crowd because they have believed her to be dead for 30-something years. And Ash blows her away, and he's like, wait for it. And then Deadite Cheryl comes up and fights him again. And he kills Deadite Cheryl in front of everybody, which causes the town to turn over a new leaf and realize that Ash was not spouting nonsense. Ash is not crazy. But in the whole commotion afterwards, during this, Ball knocks Ash out. But yes, good turn on Ellen Sandweiss. Ellen, you came back to play Cheryl. You did a great job. Between you and Ted, you got me. You got me right here with the whole secret relationship, ripping of the heart out. Ted, you sold that so well. I would have hugged Chet's dead body crying for hours. That's how I felt when it happened. Thanks. Thanks for reminding me I have a heart. So Ash is knocked out by Ball. Ash wakes up in an insane asylum. He's being treated by a man calling himself Dr. Peacock. Obviously, it's Ball in disguise. Not even in a really good disguise. He claims that Ash has been locked up for 30 years since the events of the cabin, and that the Necronomicon is not real, and Ash is suffering from a psychotic delusion. Ironically, the episode name is Delusion for this one. Because he wants to deny responsibility for his actions. Ash figures it out. We do get the appearance of the Ashy Slashy puppet for puppet therapy. And he's just as perverted as real Ash. The puppet scenes are hilarious. But within this delusion, this illusion, he sees Ruby as a nurse, Kelly's another inmate, Pablo is an orderly, and Chet dies again. Sam, what is your thing with hurting your little brother in this one? Ivan, come on. But actually, this episode was not written by them, so I wonder if they still gave up the idea. But yeah, we lose Chet again, so Ash gets hit with that. Linda shows up, and it's actual Linda. It's not an illusion. To try and goad the illusion along, because Ball has kidnapped Lacey, and yeah, she's been coerced. But Ash is looking out the window and sees Pablo, Kelly, and Ruby show up, and he knows it's a farce, but he continues to play along. Because he's trying to figure out what Ball wants. So, the Ghost Beaters are bitching about the whole situation while they're arming up. So the Ghost Beaters show up at the asylum and they encounter Sheriff Emery's there. He's the one who got Linda involved because Lacey was kidnapped in exchange for freedom. But it turns out we have Lacey's been turned to Deadite and kills her daddy. Finally, this fucker is gone. This character was so goddamn annoying, and I know that was the point of it. You rejoice when she's dead, when he's dead, when she kills him. But unfortunately later Kelly kills her. So, but we do get some good Deadite fights out of that. Ruby and Ruby and Pablo do end up encountering Ash, who seems to be on a very one-track mind of destroying the book, and apparently he knows enough that Pablo is the book. Tries to take Pablo to Ball. Back and forth. Kelly finds the Ashy Slashy puppet, and it is actually sentient, and there is a puppet fight with Kelly and the puppet. Kelly ultimately wins. Yes, our queen. Linda finds Kelly, and Kelly has to tell her that Lacey's dead. I don't remember Kelly telling her that she had to kill her, but Lacey's dead. And Kelly gives her the I know this moment. This is the moment where you can either turn around and run or stand up and face this, because I've been there. And Linda's played very well by veteran TV actress Michelle Hurd. I know I haven't mentioned that yet. Most recently seen by me in Picard, but she was in Law & Order SVU for its early seasons. She's done a lot of television, and she's a very, very good actress, and she's very, very good as Linda Bates. Linda finds her strength, and she helps out. I'm sorry, I'm talking so much, I need oxygen. So, they all end up reaching where Ash has stashed Pablo with Ball, and he finally breaks character. Ash had been acting like he was still under the influence of Dr. Peacock the entire time. He finally breaks character. And as part of his plan to get Pablo and Ball in the same room so that they could banish Ball, so Pablo recites the incantation to send Ball back to hell. But before disappearing, Ball slashes Pablo in half with this long fingernail trick that he does. And so Ball is gone at the cost of Pablo's life. So of course, Ash we're in the last 2 episodes of the season. Ash is spiraling out of control that his little buddy is dead. He's doing donuts in the Delta, which has finally been fixed, by the way. And drinking and smoking a joint, and he has a vision of Pablo talking to him, telling him, dude, you can stop all this from happening and keep me alive by going back and getting rid of the book, going back in time. Here's where we're finally going to start mentioning Army of Darkness directly because of the rights issues being worked out, finally. He's like, yeah, I went back to the 1300s. I can do it again. So he gets Kelly and Ruby in there and coerces Ruby to recite the incantation to take him back to 1982. So we have a little bit of a Back to the Future moment where we are in 1982 and they head out to the cabin again. This bitchy mistress will not leave him alone, will it? Ash is still under the impression that he is the one who unleashed the evil by reading the book, but we find out that the evil's already been unleashed because of Professor Nobi. Everybody wants to pin this shit on Ash, but no. That shit was already in motion when Ash and his friends ended up at that cabin. It was fucking Professor Nobi. I've said my damn piece. Fuck you, Nobi. Fuck you and the horse you rode in on. And we find out exactly how bad it is with Nobi. In this episode. This is the second to last episode I'm currently talking about. Ash steps on a nail. He's in the cabin alone. Ruby and Kelly are in the woods. Ash steps on a nail, and it causes his leg to start to go bad. But rather than amputate the leg like he amputated his hand, thank God, he does the old snake tourniquet it, bleed it out, suck the poison out like a bad snake bite. We end up with another moment very reminiscent of the windmill scene with the mini Ashes in Ash's stomach in the cabin kitchen. And he spits up this little weird mutated thing and kills it. It's kind of gross. In a good way. They are stalked by something in the woods, Kelly and Ruby are, and they're talking about all this crazy stuff that's been going on. Now, Ash is still looking for the book. This is kind of a joking nod to the fact that it was found in 2 different places and with the 2 different movies, and he couldn't remember where. In first Evil Dead, they found the book in the basement with Scotty. In the second Evil Dead, in the recap, it was on a table in I think the main room. So this is kind of a nod at that, kind of a joking little, haha, we got you. We know we have bad continuity and we're pointing it out. But the book's not there. He goes to look in the cellar and he comes across human Henrietta. So yes, we have the return of Henrietta, at least in human form right now. She's chained up to the wall in the back of the portion of the cellar where they found everything in the first movie. Henrietta's trying to get Ash to free her. He's tortured me. He's hurt me. You need to let me go so that we can get away from here. He's mad. He's crazy. Um, they're interrupted by Professor Nobi coming back with a young co-ed named Tanya, who basically his plan is to find a passage to transfer the demon from Henrietta, because Henrietta is already possessed at this point, even though Ash doesn't realize it. But his first reaction is, oh no, you bitch. He wants to kill her. So his first reaction was the correct reaction. But if he would have done that, we wouldn't have gotten what's coming up. But the plan for Nobi is to transfer the demon from Henrietta to Tanya and then destroy Tanya. She's a loner. She won't be missed. But we get possessed Henrietta instead after Ash foolishly lets her out, unchains her. And yes, it is Ted. Ted got back into the latex to play Henrietta again. Now, I realize that a man of Ted's age at that time is not 100% possessed Henrietta. There was a stuntman involved. I cannot remember the guy's name. Ted did credit him in an interview that I watched with Collider. But like the line delivery, a lot of the close-up stuff, that was all 100% Ted. And I'm living for it, baby. I am so living for it. Henrietta was such a great character. And they made her even grosser this time around. So we also have, while all this is going on, the Woods come alive and attack Ruby and Kelly. And they manage to defeat the tree by poking it in its eye. And we have another Evil Dead first one reference when Kelly says something to the lines of, well, it's the first time a tree's tried to kill me. And Ruby says something along the lines of, well, it could have been worse, alluding to Cheryl's violation from the branches. So we get to the last episode. Ash and Henrietta are bashing it out in the basement. Henrietta kills poor Tanya. I feel so sorry for that poor little co-ed. Professor Nobi ends up getting killed in his little car as he tries to escape with the book. We find out who did that in a few minutes. Professor Nobi was killed by the Ruby of 1982. She is looking for the book, and she found it. So we now have two Rubies. We have a good Ruby and a bad Ruby. Good Ruby has the hairstyle she's had the entire season. Bad Ruby, they at least had the common sense to give her, a blonde 80s bob. This Ruby has not met Ash yet. She's still hell-bent on releasing her children, and now that Ball's around, yeah, because yeah, we get to a point where good Ruby and Kelly meet bad Ruby, and Ash and Henrietta have an awesome fight. It's disgusting, it's brutal. And that just really goes to show you, it's another great example of the chemistry between Ted and Bruce. There is, I swear to God, there is just this shorthand that must be a thing between them where they can instinctually work together, because that shit is classic. But of course, we have to defeat Henrietta, so bye, Ted. Nice to see you get back in the makeup again, even though I know you fucking hate that shit. I know that shit is not your favorite stuff to do. I have heard you say it. And it was, not as... You get loopy and slap happy after a while. I get it. But thank you. But we... We get to a point where Ash and Kelly try to escape because good Ruby and bad Ruby are facing off, and unfortunately we lose good Ruby because bad Ruby kills her. Ash's hand comes back and Pablo's alive, but Pablo's not actually alive. It was Ball the entire time. He transferred himself to Pablo's dead body and just waited for the timeline to go back. Yeah, so Ball's up and around and alive, and Pablo's still dead. Poor Pablito. So we're back to birthing children in the cabin basement, but this time we're actually using the book rather than poor Pablo's face. So Ash challenges Ball to a fair fight. No powers, just you and me. If I win, Ash, you're gone. You and Ruby, gone. Children gone. I get to send you to hell. And if Ball wins, they get destroyed. Both Kelly and Ash. So Ball ultimately cheats, by the way, of course. And Ruby is so fed up with Ball's shit that she alters the deal, which they had sealed with blood over the Necronomicon. But she alters the deal so that she's not a part of it any longer. Smart girl. But Ball fights. First, it's Ball versus Ash. Fight. Ash is getting the upper hand, so Ball starts to shapeshift. First, he shapeshifts into Chet and cuts off the new hand. So we get to see Ted come back, and we get to see Ted fight as Chet. Ted, you did so much work in so little time on this. As well as, there's some extras we'll talk about that Ted also did. The man must be a workaholic. But, anyway. Then he shapeshifts into Cheryl. Brock shows up, and it's kind of alluded to that it might not have been Ball as Brock, but it also could have been Ball messing with him. So, Ash ultimately kills the Brock stand-in. But Ash ends up defeating Ball with his own claw. Cuts him in half. Sends his ass to hell. His ass to hell. Well, the cabin implodes. Evil goes to hell. Ruby escapes. Ash and Kelly escape, and Pablo is returned from the dead as per the deal. That was part of the deal, was Pablo was returned from the dead. So we return to modern day Elk Grove, where Ash is hailed as a hero. They're all happy and woo! You see some nice Force Ghosts style of Chet and Cheryl and Brock cheering him on from the afterlife. Ash voices his intention to settle down in Elk Grove, and we get a glimpse of 1982 Ruby in this timeline. So there's some loose ends to tie up here. That's a lot. Good Lord, I've been rambling on for about an hour. I'm sorry, this is going to be a long video. But this is my favorite season of Ash vs. Evil Dead. Yeah, you can put it in the comments. It's only your favorite season because Ted's in it. No, it's my favorite season because there's a lot of craziness going on. Like an insane amount of craziness. Insane amount of lore dropped on us. Stellar performances. A return of, another Xena family member. There's just so much. It ticks off so many boxes. And again, because I'm from a small town, I feel that shit. I know what that shit is like. So, yes, this is very, very much up my alley. Now, I'm going to go back to what I said about Ted being a workaholic. There were a lot of extras done for this season, and a lot of them are on YouTube. He took himself, I believe Lucy Lawless's daughter, Daisy, and a couple of other production assistants, and they filmed all these Shemp's beer ads to be very similar to like these 1980s beer ads. And I'm sitting here thinking, you're there as Chet, you're there as Henrietta, and now you're doing this on top of it. Do you ever fucking sleep? And he managed to get, like Lucy and Bruce and I think maybe Dana and Pablo or Ray. Sorry, I default to calling him Pablo for some reason. But yeah, the extras for this show are insane. There are a crap ton on YouTube here. If you get a hold of the DVDs and Blu-rays, they're on there. But this is a gem of a television show, and this is its stellar season. Season 1 was really good. It set us up, it got us going. This brings us to the apex of the storytelling. Now, we do have another season, which is good, but it's not my favorite out of the 3. Yeah, everything's got to be ranked, and I like every trilogy, usually the second installment is the best because it's got the most going on. And that's how I kind of feel about this. If you look at this as a movie trilogy, or like a movie trilogy, this is definitely the second installment. This is its Empire. Empire Strikes Back. This is, yeah. So, do you understand what I'm saying? I hope you do. So, okay, feel free in the comments to call me out about talking about small towns and how I'm not right, because you grew up in a small town and it wasn't like that. If you don't think it's like that, you were part of the group that was special. If you want to call me out for talking about mental health and everything with these people, and you're an expert and want to correct me, please do so in a kind manner. If y'all want to call me out on the Ted Raimi thing, I am expecting that. If there are any Ted Raimi stands out there, if you all love him as much as I do and enjoy his performances as much as I do, stick up for a girl, man. Stick up for a girl. We have one more season left. One more video for the saga of Ash Williams, and then I will be done, and we will go back to our regularly scheduled horror fun, and I promise I will not do a Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, Ted Raimi video for a little while. I do have some that have already been filmed from those guys, but I will put off putting them out so you can get a Raimi Campbell break. I promise. They will go up eventually, and I will go back to rambling about these guys eventually, but I'll give you a break. So, on that note, I have been rambling for about an hour now, and I am getting really tired because it is late, and this took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to. So, I'm going to steal a line from my dear darling Chet Kaminsky. See you guys later. I hope you're with me until the wheels fall off. So, on that note, I'm just going to say it. Good night, my creeplings. And I'll see you next time.